Welcome to The Explainer. So, what if you could give your child a $60,000 head start in life? And what if it didn't require any special knowledge, no lucky stock picks, and honestly, less money than you might think? Today, we're going to break down something called the 18-year wealth machine. It's a really simple, powerful strategy that turns time, just plain old time, into a huge financial advantage. Let's get into it.
I know. It sounds a little ambitious, maybe too good to be true, but the math behind it is surprisingly simple. This isn't about getting lucky. It's not about timing the market. It's really just about a consistent, patient process that builds incredible momentum. And the whole thing hinges on one single asset that every child has tons of, something most of us adults wish we had a lot more of.
But before we can build this machine, we really have to understand the number one trap that so many parents fall into. It's that instinct that feels so safe, so responsible. But in the long run, it can actually hold back your child's financial future. It's the huge difference between just saving money and actually building wealth.
And this chart, this lays out the problem perfectly. See that tiny little bar on the left? That's what your money earns in a typical savings account. Pretty much nothing. Now look at that towering bar right next to it. That's how much something like college tuition goes up, on average every single year. You can see the problem right away. Your savings are in a race against rising costs, and it's a race they are mathematically set up to lose.
So here's the bottom line. Over 18 years, the money you've so carefully saved up will actually buy less than it does today. It's like you're running on a financial treadmill, only the speed keeps getting turned up year after year. You're not just standing still, you are actually moving backward. That right there is the savings trap. So, how in the world do you escape this trap? How do you build real, lasting wealth for your kids' future? Well, the answer isn't just to save more. You need a totally different tool. You need a machine, a wealth machine that works for you, around the clock, even when you're sleeping. The engine of this machine is called compound growth. The best way to think about it is like a little snowball at the top of a very long hill. At first, it's tiny, but as it starts to roll, it picks up more snow and it gets a little bigger and it starts rolling a little faster. And pretty soon, you're not just earning returns on your original money, but you're earning returns on the returns. That's when the magic really starts to happen. And listen, this isn't just a nice theory. This is like a core law of finance. The experts are all pretty clear on this. The really jaw-dropping, amazing effects of compounding, they only show up over really long timelines. We're talking decades. That 18 to 20-year period of a childhood, well, that isn't just a good window. It's the absolute perfect window to watch that growth curve go from a gentle little slope to a steep, steep climb.
Okay, so if compounding is the engine of our machine, what's the fuel? We know for sure that a savings account with its tiny interest rate just isn't going to cut it. We need something with a lot more horsepower.
And that fuel is the stock market. Specifically, investing in something called broad market indexes. Now, instead of trying to pick one winning company, an index fund lets you buy a tiny, tiny piece of hundreds of the biggest companies all at once. It's like betting on the whole economy to grow. And just look at the historical 20-year average returns for two of the big ones, the S&P 500, which is the 500 biggest U.S. companies, and the MSCI World, which tracks top companies from all over the globe. These are the kinds of numbers that have fueled the wealth machine for a long, long time. Now, it is so important to say that these are just historical averages. The market will always have good years and bad years, and past performance never guarantees future results. But what this really shows you is the long-term trend. When you invest this way, you're not really gambling on a single stock. You're buying a small piece of the overall growth of the entire economy. All right, so let's put this machine to the test. Let's run the numbers on a hypothetical case study. The plan is super simple. $100 a month invested in a fund that just tracks the S&P 500. And we start the day a child is born. Let's see what happens over the next 18 years. Over those 18 years, the amount of money you put in out of your own pocket is really straightforward. It's $100 a month for 216 months. That's a total of $21,600. Now that's a serious amount of money to save, no question. But the real question is, what did the machine do with it? By the time your child blows out the candles on their 18th birthday cake, that account could be worth nearly $60,000. Just let that sink in for a second. Your $21,000 in contributions has generated almost $40,000 in pure growth. But hang on, because this is the point where that compounding curve really starts to bend upwards. The growth isn't a straight line, it accelerates. So what happens if you just leave it alone for 2 more years? No more money in, just letting the machine run on its own. By age 20, the fund has jumped to over $76,000. That's another $16,000 in just 2 years. I mean, think about that. It took 18 years to build the first 60,000, but it only took 2 more years to add another 16. That snowball is getting really big now, and it's rolling a whole lot faster. So when we look at that final number, that $76,000, the most important question to ask is, who did the work? I mean, where did all that money really come from? This chart tells the whole story, and it's really the core idea of this entire explainer. Just look at the breakdown. Your contributions, the actual cash you put in from your bank account, make up less than a third of the final total. So what's the punchline? The market growth, powered by all those years of compounding, did almost 70% of the heavy lifting for you. Time, not picking the right stock, not even how much money you put in. Time is, by far, the most powerful force in this whole equation. It's your greatest asset. And that brings us to the single most important takeaway from all of this. Building this kind of wealth for your child isn't about being some kind of financial wizard. It's not about being rich to begin with. It's just about understanding and using the most valuable asset you have at your disposal right now. Every parent gets this 18-year window of opportunity. The compounding machine works the exact same way for everybody. The most critical decision you can make isn't how much money you start with. It's simply that you start, because the clock is already ticking. So the only question left is, are you going to put that time to work for your child?